A covenant is a mutual agreement between two or more people that creates a familial bond. It differs from a regular contract, as even if one of the parties does not fulfill their promise, the other party still has to fulfill their promise. Throughout the Bible, we see God creating many covenants with humanity. He uses these covenants to bring humanity redemption and away from our sin. One of the major covenants that start humans back on the path to redemption is the Abrahamic covenant. God makes this covenant with Abraham where he promises a name, land, and a blessing. The first part of this promise gives him the name of Abraham and promises him to be the father of a multitude of nations. The second part of this promise is about the land for his descendants. God promises that his descendants will receive the promised land. Lastly, God tells Abraham that all families will be blessed by Abraham's descendants. The sign of this covenant was circumcision. However, there was no commitment as this covenant was unconditional. After the Abrahamic covenant, God makes a covenant with Moses in order to save the recently emancipated Israelites. This covenant applies to all of the Israelites. In the Mosaic covenant, God promises to make the Israelites a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. While the Abrahamic covenant was unconditional, this covenant required the Israelites to follow the 10 Commandments and God's law. In order to remind both parties of their commitment, the sign made was the Sabbath. Through God's promise with Abraham, Abraham receives the descendant David, who God creates another covenant with, called the Davidic covenant, applying to David and his lineage. In the Davidic covenant, God promises that David's line will last forever and that David's son will be called his own. God promises that the throne will last forever. Additionally, God promises that one of David's descendants will sit on the throne and rule Israel forever. The sign of this covenant was the throne. Lastly, God makes the new covenant. In this covenant, God promises the house of Israel the forgiveness of sins and that they will truly know the Lord. This covenant will not only last forever, but will also be accessible to all. The sign of this covenant is the fruit, or the Eucharist. After learning about the different covenants, we can begin to see the connections between them and Jesus. In the Abrahamic covenant, Jesus fulfills God's promise that all families will be blessed by Abraham's descendant. Not only is Jesus a descendant of Abraham, but he blesses us by taking on our sin when he sacrifices himself on the cross, fulfilling the Abrahamic covenant. Jesus also fulfills the Mosaic covenant. When God promises the Israelites that they would be a priestly and holy people, Jesus fulfills this promise as he is a priest king, therefore making the Israelites a priestly and holy people. Christians believe that the Son of David that will be called God's own is the Messiah, Jesus. This is because Jesus is also the Son of God. Jesus also fulfills the promise of one of David's descendants who will sit on the throne and rule Israel forever. He does this through his ascension, where he now sits on the throne forever in heaven. The new covenant is also fulfilled through Jesus. By sacrificing himself on the cross, Jesus takes our sin and forgives us of our sins. This fulfills the new covenant. Through Jesus, we finally see how the previous covenants were fulfilled and how God planned to save us. While to us, God's actions may be a mystery and jumbled, but God has planned each and every action, putting the pieces together, leading to our salvation through Jesus taking on our sin.